Hello, I'm Luna. Welcome to 3 Minutes Unknown. Imagine arriving at an international airport with a completely legitimate-looking passport. You hand it to an immigration officer. Everything appears normal, until the officer looks at the country listed as your place of origin. Taured. There's just one problem. The country doesn't exist. According to one of the internet's most famous mystery stories, the man insisted that Taured was a real country. He even pointed to a location on a map. Then something even stranger supposedly happened. The next day, the man was gone. So, who was he? And where did the story of the mysterious country of Taured really come from? According to the popular version of the story, the incident supposedly took place in Japan during the 1950s. A man arrived at an airport carrying identification from a country called Taured. He claimed he had traveled to Japan for business. But when officials examined his documents, they couldn't find Taured on any recognized map. The man reportedly became confused. He insisted that his country existed, and he allegedly pointed to the area between France and Spain, where modern-day Andorra is located. But according to the story, he claimed that wasn't Andorra. It was Taured. The story becomes even stranger from here. The man's passport supposedly contained stamps from countries that actually existed. He reportedly had money from several nations, and he supposedly carried business documents that appeared legitimate. So officials were left with an unusual problem. If this man was telling the truth, why couldn't anyone find his country? And if he was lying, how had he managed to produce so many convincing documents? The authorities reportedly detained him while they investigated. According to the legend, he was placed in a guarded hotel room. And that's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. The next morning, the man was supposedly gone. The room was reportedly secure. There was no obvious way for him to leave, and according to the popular story, his passport and documents had disappeared with him. Officials searched for him, but they couldn't find him. And supposedly, they couldn't find any record proving that he had ever existed. That's when the story became something much stranger than a simple immigration mystery. Because if the man wasn't from Taured, where was he actually from? One explanation eventually became legendary. The man wasn't lying. He was from another reality. According to the theory, Taured existed in a parallel universe. Somehow the man had crossed into our world. His documents belonged to his reality. His country was real, just not in our version of Earth. And when he disappeared from the hotel, some versions of the story suggest he somehow returned to his own dimension. It's an incredible story, but there's a problem. The deeper researchers look into it, the harder it becomes to verify the story exactly as it's usually told. Researchers investigating the legend have found evidence suggesting that the popular story may be a heavily distorted version of a real incident. There are historical reports of people using fraudulent passports and false identities. There are also accounts involving a man who claimed to come from a country called Taured, but some of the most dramatic details are difficult to verify, and that distinction matters. The famous internet version may not describe what actually happened. Instead, a strange real-world incident may have gradually evolved into a much bigger mystery. And perhaps that's what makes the story so fascinating. Because there may be two mysteries here. The first, who was the real man behind the Taured story? And the second, how did an unusual incident become one of the internet's famous stories? The idea of someone accidentally crossing between realities is science fiction, but the human fascination behind the story is very real. We still don't know exactly how much of the famous account is historical fact, and how much was added over time. And that's where the mystery remains. Maybe the man from Taured was simply an elaborate fraud. Maybe the story grew with every retelling, or maybe there's still a piece of the story we haven't uncovered. What do you think happened? Comment below, like and subscribe for more weekly content. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next mystery.